It's been interesting. I've been to several in the past, and this, just as those have been a good, diverse group of people with a lot of viewpoints, and it's just always good to get a sense of how other folks are viewing the same issues that we're dealing with. That's a tough one. So yeah, what I'm finding very interesting is probably a lot of the discussion focused on the 6 gigahertz band and the various viewpoints globally. There's seems to be both a lot of agreement and quite a bit of disagreement on how best to move forward. And I guess I'm trying to understand the various reasons and compelling reasons on both views and see how we can help in trying to create a more harmonized global approach. Sure. Well, in the U.S., I think most people are aware we were probably the early adopters and movers on making the 6 gigahertz band, the full 6 gigahertz band, all 1200 megahertz, available for unlicensed access. So in doing that, we provided for, I think about 2 years ago, in 2020, for low power indoor access. Equipment has been available for well over a year. It's being used. We are still working on authorizing the AFC automated frequency coordination systems to provide for the high power outdoor access. One of the things I've heard at the conference is a lot of folks are kind of keeping an eye on what we're doing and hoping to be able to use what we've done in order to create that similar access in their countries. So and the thing, we're still studying the very low power access that some of the other countries have already authorized. So I think we've got a really good start. I think we're kind of ahead of the game somewhat, and I think we're going to see some interesting use cases. Well, I think like any regulatory decision we make, it's always a combination of engineering, economics, regulatory, and a lot of judgment based on what we're seeing develop in the marketplace. And there always seems to be this debate of licensed access versus unlicensed access. And I think what we need to recognize is the two are complementary, and there's a need for both because they serve different purposes and provide different types of connectivity for different reasons. So as a regulator, we kind of have to take a step back and take a look at how do we best provide for both. And we have recently done a lot of auctions in the mid-band and the 3 gigahertz spectrum and provided a lot of licensed access. So here offering unlicensed access in this particular band, given some of the trade-offs of who the incumbents were, a lot of fixed service, and is there a need to relocate them versus sharing with unlicensed users? And at the end of the day, when we looked at the overall picture, it seemed that the decision, both from economic, regulatory, technical standpoint, made sense to provide unlicensed access. And again, as I said, that can complement a lot of the licensed access and the networks we're seeing built by the carriers in other parts of that mid-band spectrum. Well, I think the DSA is certainly influential. Globally, they advocate for dynamic access, shared access, and I think they've been very effective. We are seeing a lot of, I think, harmonization around the globe in a lot of these bands, and a lot of approaches that do play off some of the developments that have happened. Certainly in the U.S., our CBRS band that is truly dynamic sharing using database access, the 6 gigahertz, again, learning from there, more database access, and they've certainly been a voice, in promoting that. So, as an organization, I think they've been effective, and these conferences certainly are a great way to bring everybody together to share these ideas and understand how, as a group of diverse organizations and regulators, we can make the best decisions moving forward for our customers, essentially, the citizens, the companies that operate. So I think most significantly, people are starting to recognize there's not a lot of greenfield spectrum left. So there's not a lot of, in fact, there really isn't any open spectrum. And in places where in the past we were able to provide access to carriers, auction spectrum, and somewhat easily create opportunities to clear the spectrum from the incumbents, that's becoming more and more difficult. So I think the trend is probably towards more creative solutions towards shared spectrum. How do we provide the access for all the different use cases? The licensed use and somewhat more exclusive type use versus the shared access, and in many cases, combining that in the same band, and I think the key here is understanding what are the incentives to compel folks to operate that way, and how can we continue to be creative in coming up with solutions, and kind of thinking outside the box a little bit, stepping back. But I do think that overall trend towards spectrum sharing is only going to increase, and I think the pressure on providing access that way is only going to keep increasing.